Welcome back to 70s Daydreams, and today we are doing Charlotte's Web, one of my favorites. I've been looking forward to doing this one for a long time, and I believe, Alder, you're a big fan of this one as well?
Yeah, I really loved this one as a kid, and I was really excited to do a rewatch as an adult and see how it held up. And I also read the book in preparation to watch the movie, which I don't know if I've read before, but I have lots to say about that as well.
Yeah, so this one is from 73. It's a Hanna-Barbera production. Hanna-Barbera is famous for Tom and Jerry, amongst many other classic cartoons. It's based off of the E.B. White book, Charlotte's Web, and it's a very calm, beautiful, well thought out story of a pig's friendship with a spider. And it's very wholesome, it's very sweet, and it takes its time. And yeah, there's a lot to talk about in this one. Do you want to start off with the visual components?
Sure. I was pretty interested in the fact that, just going off of the Wikipedia, there were a lot of quotes about when the animation came out. People were calling it names, really. They said, quote, exceedingly uninteresting, quote, stiff, basic, and two-dimensional, and, quote, plotting blandness. And I thought, I mean, that's not what I would have said about it at all, but it definitely has more of a flatness than a lot of the other things that we've seen, or less line, etching lines, or it's like when you see the pig Wilbur, he's just all pink, there aren't shading lines really on him, or.
But I liked the flatness. That was what I thought gave it a lot of its charm. Yeah, I don't know. I can't imagine. What did they say? It was uninteresting and
exceedingly uninteresting. It's stiff, basic, and two-dimensional. Wow. Two-dimensional, I'll go with that. But I liked that it was two-dimensional. Yeah, I thought that was part of its charm.
Yeah, speaking of the outlines, one little thing that I really liked was all of the women's lips, since they had lipstick on, there was no outline on their lips except where the two lips touched. Oh, yeah. There was a line, but there was no outline of the lips, and I thought that was a very pretty way to draw that. And then there were also, when they're at the dinner table, the plates and glasses had white outlines instead of black outlines. And that's something I feel like people should take advantage of more, because the outlines don't always have to be black. They can be different colors. And I thought that gave it a nice little change up, nice little subtle thing. And I feel like the animation, it wasn't ambitious or anything, but it took its time, and I really liked how things moved. The pacing of cartoons in the past is definitely a lot slower, but there was something about how it would sort of, when a character would have an expression, it would really take its time to unfold instead of having an immediate reaction, and I thought that was very contemplative. And one other thing about the visuals, I thought the end credits were really nice because they were basically just sketches, but each one was all one color, and it kind of switched between different colors.
And I think that I read that was the concept art for before the storyboarding or something like that. And they did a similar thing when Templeton was dreaming about the feast at the fair, and how he turned lime green, and then it was kind of this Prismacolor. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it was really wild visuals there.
Apparently, this is a big favorite scene of many people's, the food fantasy scene that Templeton has. It was really beautiful because it had these sort of psychedelic sequences, and I really loved the dots. There, at one point, the fair was represented by all dots, the Ferris wheel was all dots and everything. Yeah, just everything had this really kind of fantastical look, because it was mirroring his joy at having access to all this food.
Yeah, that's definitely like the main thing that I remember from watching it as a kid, was Templeton, which is so interesting because like people say throughout the whole movie, like, well, nobody really likes Templeton, and like, oh, yeah, there's Templeton, blah blah, and they do that in the book too, which is, it's funny that because I feel like he's almost like the most memorable character, probably one of the most like beloved or love to hate characters or something like that. But
He did seem like a little bit selfish at points, but I didn't find him to be like, I didn't hate him or anything. I think he was just sort of maybe a little bit of, he wasn't like a bully. He was just sort of like a little mischievous, and
I think he was just sassy, like,
yeah,
you know?
he was just sassy, and he was like, "Oh, I don't want to attend the meeting right now," or I don't want to do that. So yeah, that leads us into like the voice acting.
So good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of the voice actors just really knocked it out of the park. Charlotte's voice was so calming. The way that Charlotte is the spider, and she just spoke with this calmness, this tenderness, but also this precision and a real directness. She was so sure of herself and very wise, and she really put everyone at ease. And I really loved her voice. I think I read somewhere that like Debbie Reynolds, she was very excited to do this role, or she might have even asked to do it
Pro bono.
pro
like,
bono
yeah.
or something. I'm not sure if that happened.
I also read that she had said at one point that the album for Charlotte's Web, like the musical album, is one of the things that she signs the most, like from fans, which is kind of sweet.
And then a close second, I would say, I think Fern's voice actor was really just so cute. I really love Fern, the character. She's just so sweet, and she's just like, she just has such a kind heart, and she has this bow in her hair, and she wants to save this pig, and she's just so honest and cute, and I just thought she was a breath of fresh air, almost kind of like a Dorothy character in a way. So I really loved her. And obviously, Templeton, played by one of my faves, Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde is most known on the Hollywood Squares and also Bewitched. Bewitched was a TV sitcom in the 60s, I believe. And it was about a witch, and she would grant wishes by like wriggling her nose, and he was the neighbor, I believe, and he's always played these sort of sassy, fun kind of comic relief type characters. And Hollywood Squares is a game show that was very popular in the 70s. It had a lot of sort of tongue-in-cheek humor, a bit ribald at times, and Paul Lynde was known for delivering a lot of cheeky one-liners that sort of hinted at his homosexuality, but like not entirely, because he wasn't really out, and people weren't out as much in those days. But he does such a great job with this, playing this mischievous rat.
Yeah, I ended up Googling, is Templeton queer coded? Because I was trying to figure that out. I found this really cute little article it's on Decider, and it's called Spying, Hiding, and Eating. Charlotte's Web's Templeton is a big game mood. And I was like, oh my God, I love this.
Does it give like some examples?
Just basically calling him like, he's basically a sassy gay man, and like Paul Lynde, really infused him in the right way, and all of that stuff. And it's really just like a funny little article, and I would say just read it because it's got little jokes and stuff in there, which was amusing.
I'll make sure to read that one pronto. So what are some other things that stood out for you in this film?
I really liked the music, and that was an interesting thing too. So the whole reason that I decided to read the book before I watched the movie again was because, first of all, I didn't remember if I had read it or not as a kid. And secondly, I saw a quote from E.B. White that said, the story is interrupted every few minutes so that somebody can sing a jolly song. I don't care much for jolly songs. And I remembered liking the music as a kid. And then I was like, I want to read the book. And then I want to watch the movie and see if like the music really is like overbearing, like compared to the book. And it's really interesting because like when I was reading the book, I was like, wow, this really follows the movie really closely. Like the dialogue is like the same, like spot on in a lot of places. I thought, oh, what a great adaptation. And then when I watched the movie, I was like, wow, it really is a lot of singing. Like it really is. I could see where he came up with that, and that, you know, I wouldn't change the movie and I wouldn't change the book. The book is honestly a masterpiece as far as I'm concerned. Like, I think everyone should read it. It's so moving, and I love children's books that deal with death in a way that is really respectful and really true and really beautiful. And like, I definitely cried like multiple times reading the book, and I loved every minute of it. It was a great book. Most of the book is set in summertime too, so it's really nice to read in the summer because this is such a seasonal, like bucolic type of book. I'm really interested in the idea of adaptations, and it seems like a lot of the animations that we've talked about, or just different stuff in general, you know, the person who it was based off of maybe was not okay with the final product of the animation or something like that. And it's interesting to me, like, how do you get there as an adaptation? Because so many things have to change with animation. The epilogue to the audiobook that I read was talking about how E.B. White kind of was not into animation, really. Like, he was, he didn't say this outright, but like seeing it as a lesser art form in a way, and what could have possibly come about that he would have been okay with, you know, as an artist. And like, obviously things have to change over time. I'm just really interested in like conversations across time and then across like media and artists too, like how artists refresh these ideas or make them their own, or how they evolve over time. And that's just always an interesting conversation. Were you assigned this one in school? I was told by several people that we were assigned it, so I think I did read it, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I'm sure probably. It goes to show how like contemporary perspectives often differ a lot from the perspectives at the time, and it's just really funny, or not funny, but it's interesting to me how it seems like some of the critics thought it wasn't anything to write home about, and E.B. White wasn't a big fan of it, and yet here we are like 50 years later still talking about it. And sometimes things are either ahead of their time, or they're doing something that people can't quite realize, or maybe sometimes it's just a timing thing. Like maybe maybe a work of art is doing something that is objectively good, but does not fit in with the zeitgeist perchance. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not E.B. White, so I personally can't really see I'm not sure what he would have wanted. I know a lot of people don't like musicals, or like having a lot of musical asides and having it be so jolly. I mean, I'm like unashamedly like very sappy, and I'm fine with all of it.
I love musicals.
Yeah, I have no
love
problem.
any kind of
Breaking out into song is great. So I don't find those things to be, you know, cringy or anything personally, because I am truly like believe in the earnestness of emotion and melodrama. I mean, I think melodrama is nice.
Speaking of that, the music in this was done by the Sherman Brothers. There was a small portion where there was like a barbershop quartet. They got involved as well. But there was a sweet little story that I saw that the Sherman Brothers, their father considered Mother Earth and Father Time his favorite song that came out from his sons. And then he died 6 months after the film was released. But
Aww.
it really, that kind of stuff really matters, like the music and the connection and the emotions. And it's really beautiful. Like,
yeah, the film does a really great job of teaching about the cycle of life, sort of similar to the point in that one song where about the fish's bones and everything, and like the cycle of life. And it's interesting because Charlotte in the beginning is she keeps saying, there's no point in putting things off. You might as well just like rip the band-aid off, and you need to know now, Wilbur, that once you mature enough, they're gonna take you to the slaughterhouse. And she tells him that forthright, but she never had the heart to fully tell him that she was on her last
Yeah,
last
she keeps
legs.
hinting at it, and Wilbur's just not getting it. Like constantly, she's like,
What do you
"Well,
mean?
like."
What do you mean you can't come back to the farm?
Well, I mean, Wilbur tends to like have these emotional breakdowns all the time, which like honestly is very fair, considering what's coming for him. And I find it really funny because Charlotte like constantly is saying like, "Oh, I can't stand hysterics, Wilbur," and it's just like, well, how do you expect him to act to the fact that all these other animals just to hang out and chill on the farm, and he's going to be killed come Christmas time, like.
And it was so devastating at the end when all of the eggs hatch, and then they all leave. And then I was like, oh no, he's not gonna have any like memory of Charlotte. But then like three of the spiders stay because they are the runts of the litter. But I haven't seen this film in maybe like 7 years, so I forgot that they stayed behind. But that was really sad when all of like finally he's trying to do the right thing, and then they all leave, and it was very sad.
Interestingly, it's a little bit different in the book because there's this whole part where Charlotte talks about how she has a cousin who's like I can't remember the word, but like a flying spider basically. And she says there's like three types of spiders, and there are flying spiders, and they're the spider that she is. So then at the end, Wilbur kind of knows that there are going to be ones that are flying away, and
Oh.
but yeah, this one was saying, oh, they're the runts, just like Wilbur, and they stayed behind. And I don't really prefer one over the other, but I think that one of the things that E.B. White also was like kind of a stickler for was like wanting to endear people to spiders a bit, and he fought. I believe that he fought for the spider to be, more accurately portrayed, and that didn't end up happening because Charlotte's anatomy is such that she has like three body segments and antenna in the movie, and spiders only have two and they don't have antenna, and they were like trying to make her look like pretty or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think that there was like a love letter kind of portion to spiders in the book that didn't come across as much, but I don't think it needs to with all the emotion and the music. And I'm really interested just in this idea of like being really precious about your art and like not wanting it to change or people to do things with it. Because I feel like I have those tendencies myself, but then it's like art's meant to be shared and like digested or consumed or like whatever, and moved through and with and all of that. And so like I like the idea of like thinking more about like, well, this means something in particular to somebody, and they're going to run with it in that direction instead of being like, it has to be this, it has to,
Yeah. Because it would be really sad if like, I know E.B. White might not have been happy with it, but if he had prevented it from getting made, we wouldn't have this beloved film. So it's, the thing is with art and just in life in general, you can't make everyone happy. Right. Some people are going to like things, some people aren't, and that's okay, just because we are all different people and we have different sensibilities and things that we like. But us two, we are of the sensibility that this is a wonderful film. I thought another really beautiful, tender moment was after the baby spiders. They are hatched. They're just like hanging from like the roof, and Wilbur is like just blowing on them gently, and they're like rocking back and forth, like he's like a swing, like they're swinging back and forth. I thought that was very.
There's so much like reverence in this movie, like just for like the natural world and for just like these really small moments in life, and how like that's what a life is composed as, and we're only here for this short amount of time. And
like when that one thing, Charlotte said something about like what is life other. She said something to the effect of, we're born, we do a few things and we die, and having a friend makes it all the more worthwhile. and and I think she was telling Wilbur this before she passed, and it really made me think, as someone who sometimes overthinks things a lot. um, just thinking about, well, maybe the purpose is just to, have friends and have people who you care about and you do things for, and they do things for you. Sometimes we all want these like grand meaning and these like big gestures of things that mean our lives matter. But I think that, if you have people that love you and people that you love, that to me seems to be, a huge part of what life should be about. And that's what this film taught me.
I agree, and I also think that like for me, it extends out like further than like loving humans and being loved by humans. I think like this one really, to me, solidifies that like, loving animals and loving nature and how you can feel like nature's love back for you in like the changing of the seasons in the summertime, and how things are like the abundance and the harvest and all of that. I found so many layers to that love, and I really appreciated that this one didn't back down from like the death, and that like there's such an impermanence to it all, and that there are really bad things that happen, like really awful, cruel, terrible things, like this pig that gets born in the springtime and he's going to be dead by fall, and he doesn't want to die, and he's like, I don't want to die, I don't want to die, and it's like, most of us don't, and so like
No.
It's just a sweet little children's way of like digesting kind of those facts about life.
I also felt like it was very like, I felt like this film like advocated for disability rights in like this subtle way, in that Wilbur was meant to be killed because he's the runt, because he's smaller, because he was the smallest of the litter, and they were seeing him as, oh, you're not going to be as productive, or you're going to be more that you need to be taken care of more than the others, and Fern saying that no, like
there's inherent value in
just because he's not as big as the others, just because he needs a little bit extra care doesn't mean that he is lesser. And I felt like, whether it's intentional or not, I could see how people who are different or have disabilities could relate to that. I don't know.
I would agree with that and disagree with that, because I think that like a big part of the plot of the movie is that like Wilbur has to like perform in order to like prove himself worthy of living. Like he has to be radiant, and and maybe there's more of this in the book too, where like they're like, oh, he was putting on the performance all day for the people that were coming, and seeing him with the spider web. And I think it has elements of that, and it also has elements of like, the reality of ableism too, and like you may have to
work a little extra harder,
play the game, just to survive, which is what he's doing. But it's easier with help from your friends and, like your loved ones, because, he couldn't have done it without Charlotte.
And also, speaking of that, I really just, my favorite message that she wrote in the web was "some pig," and I just thought that was such a cute like phrase. I could imagine like someone who's like learning English watching this movie be like, what is some pig? Like why what is that's like a very kind of like colloquial sort of turn of phrase. And just like the idea of like, when you say like that's some da da da, meaning like, oh, that's a really great, that's a good thing. And I don't know, like every time I see it was just nice that they chose that phrase instead of just like an adjective for the, I thought it was just, it's so like charming and I don't know, and just like hearing all of like the townsfolk being like, "That's some pig," it was so like cute and just
In the afterword to the book, that talks a lot about how E.B. White like spent a lot of time on what words that he would put on the web and stuff, which was like such a writerly or poet thing to do. And he had all these beginnings too of the book too that ended up not. He wasn't sure who the main character was or who to focus on at first, because he was like, is it Charlotte or is it Wilbur or is it Fern? Like, and so the book ends up starting with Fern and the dad, like a dialogue with Fern and the dad, basically in the kitchen, where like, oh, you're gonna kill him, like type of thing. Where the and I see why they have to do it with the movie, and it works better with the movie where they're just like, and here's the farm, and this is the season, and we're doing this, and then it kind of zooms in on the family. But
I think the movie did a really good job of focusing a little bit on everyone. I mean, I guess, yeah, Wilbur is the main character, but Charlotte is there quite a great deal. And Fern is, she's not there as much, but she's still like a main character, I would say. It was kind of interesting how, like, even though Wilbur is the main character, Charlotte is sort of like his fairy godmother that's really helping him get through all of this. And just watching over him. I like the goose who was
flibbity ibbity gibbet.
who like says everything like twice and then spells terrific. What was it like
T-double-E-double-R.
She reminded me a little bit of the geese in Aristocats. Just maybe like the way. I just think geese are very cute in the way they're drawn. I like that little the runt Gosling.
Jeffrey. Yeah. He was all right. I mean, Templeton, honestly, like I liked Templeton since I was a kid. Like I've always loved rats though, and like mice and stuff. Yeah. And I just found him totally delightful. So I feel like he's probably my number one. But then like there's the sheep father. He's kind of mean, like, and I feel like the goose is kind of mean, but like she's like mean in a way where like, East Coasters are not nice, but they're kind. That's kind of how she is. But I kind of feel like the sheep was just a mean one. Like,
I saw that online there was a deleted scene featuring Jeffrey, the small Gosling, where he wants to go to the fair with Wilbur, and in the movie, he just sort of gets kicked out of the crate. But there's a deleted scene where I think he like hops onto the truck and then they like kick him off or something, and then he like watches the truck drive away and he's like sad, and then I don't know if the mother comes to console him or something. But this was the Swedish version. It wasn't quite clear if it was in like the other versions, like the international versions, or where the deleted scene had come from. But it was very brief.
One other thing I just wanted to say about this movie is just like I loved what it did with words, and I loved what it did with vocabulary for kids, and I love the idea of making media for children but not holding back on like larger vocabulary. Yes. So that they're exposed to it, and I think that's a really important thing. And it brought like jokes and stuff along with it too, where so Charlotte at one point says to Wilbur, "Oh, I'm versatile," and he says, "Oh, does versatile mean full of eggs?" And she's like, "Certainly not." And it's like really cute. And then like Templeton goes and he's like tearing little pieces of paper off of like laundry soap and stuff and bringing it back to her. And I just the attention to like words and diction in this is just so good, and that's a direct reflection of the book. But I'm so glad that there was a congruence between those two things. Like,
yeah, some of the songs had some some $2 words in there, and that's the thing. You don't have to dumb things down for kids. I think audiences are smarter than we give them credit for, especially children. And there was something about, and I don't know if this is just like a mid-century thing, but Charlotte specifically, there was just like her diction and her way of speaking. There was something very, like not like fully like posh, but there was something about the way they all spoke and
Learned.
learned, and it. I don't know. I personally find that style of speaking to be very calming.
Yeah, I find it kind of comforting in a way.
Maybe it's nostalgic or something, but I don't know. There were certain things that the way it's just certain turns of phrase and the ways she would say things.
I had a funny little thing happen too when I was before I read this book or watched the movie. I was reading a different book and it had the word arable in it, and I was like, "Hey, that's their last name." And then I was like, "What does that word mean?" And I was like, "Oh, land that is suitable for growing crops." And I was like, "Wow, I never knew that." And I just loved that I got to learn that word.
And then there was also an interesting thing when she chose the word humble. She said it had two meanings. And I was kind of curious at the second meaning.
Close to the ground.
I was like, am I hearing this right? Like close to the ground? Like I don't know if I've ever seen it used like that. I mean, because I'm looking it up right now, like the definition of humble. It can mean, being modest or having a low opinion of one's appearance, one's own importance. It may have been a metaphorical meaning, sort of like grounded, to have your feet on the ground.
Yeah, anything else you think you want to say about this one?
Yeah, it's just something really nice about the pacing of this one. And I mean, I think part of it is just the time, I think.
And I think there's something about, too, like the 70s looking back on the 50s is like a really particular kind of aesthetic that's really interesting. Like Grease does that, too.
That was sort of a trend in the era, Happy Days, and a lot of the music was also harking back to the 50s. And so, I mean, and we think of it the same as today. It's like thinking of the 50s as, oh, it was a simpler time. Like things were simpler and quieter. And so perhaps they were sort of projecting that idea onto it, but with their funky, colorful, psychedelic aesthetic, which, I find to be, it's a match made in heaven, personally, for me personally. But yeah, we really love this movie. Y'all should see it. It's on YouTube, free with ads. Just check it on YouTube, Charlotte's Web. And it's been great talking to you all.
We'll see you next time.
See you.
Bye. Bye.